Jake Morrison sat in his office on Earth, staring at the message on his screen. The words made his stomach tight. The Galactic Council wanted him at their headquarters immediately. Not next week. Not in a few days. Now. He read the message 3 times. Each time it sounded worse. Formal complaint, serious violations, mandatory appearance. These were not friendly words. These were the words you used when someone was in deep trouble. Jake had been Earth's ambassador to the Galactic Council for 4 years. In that time, he had learned how aliens thought, how they negotiated, how they played their political games. He was good at his job. He kept humanity's relationships stable with dozens of different species across the galaxy. But this message was different. This felt like a trap. His office door opened. Ben Carter walked in carrying 2 cups of coffee. Ben was young, only 26, but he was sharp. He worked as Jake's assistant and had saved the ambassador from embarrassment more than once with his quick thinking. "You saw it?" Ben asked, handing Jake a cup. "Yeah, I saw it." Jake took a long drink of the hot coffee. "What do you think?" Ben sat down across from the desk. "I think someone wants to hurt us. The timing is too convenient. Right after we opened those 3 new colonies. Right after our shipyards finished the new fleet." Jake nodded. Ben was right. Humanity had been doing well lately. Too well, maybe. When humans first joined the galactic community 12 years ago, everyone treated them like children. Cute, primitive, not important. But humans learned fast. They worked hard. They built better ships, found better worlds, made better deals. And some of the older species did not like that. "Pull everything you can find," Jake said. "Trade records, colony reports, fleet movements. If someone is making accusations, I want to know what they might use against us." Ben left quickly. Jake turned his chair to look out the window. Earth stretched below him, blue and green and beautiful. Somewhere down there, people were living their lives. They had no idea that their future in the galaxy might be decided in the next few days. 3 hours later, Jake was on a ship heading to Zenith Prime. The station hung in space like a massive wheel, home to the Galactic Council. It was neutral ground, where all species could meet and argue and make laws that affected trillions of lives. Ben sat next to him in the small diplomatic vessel called Aurora. They had been reading files for the entire journey. What they found made Jake angry. "Look at this," Ben said, pointing at his screen. "These reports about our colony ships, they claim we entered restricted zones. But when I checked the actual coordinates, those zones were never restricted. Someone changed the maps after we were already there." Jake studied the data. Ben was right. Someone had moved boundaries on star charts, making it look like human ships broke rules they never broke. It was clever and dishonest. "What else?" Jake asked. "Our fleet exercises. 3 months ago, we ran combat drills near the outer rim. Standard stuff. Every species does it. But someone recorded it and edited the footage. They made it look like we were preparing for an invasion." Jake felt his anger grow. "Who benefits from this?" Ben pulled up another file. "The Kethrin Empire has filed 6 complaints. The Velox Consortium filed 4. Both of them have been losing trade contracts to human companies. Both of them wanted exclusive rights to mine the Centauri cluster, but we got there first. So this is about money and territory." "Always is," Ben said. "But there is something else. I found some old council records. 23 species have been sanctioned in the last 300 years. Really harsh sanctions. Most of them never recovered. They became client states, dependent on bigger empires. And guess who controlled most of them? The Kethrins." "Exactly. Every single pattern matches. A young species starts doing well. Accusations appear. The Council imposes sanctions. The Kethrins offer to help. Then they basically own that species forever." Jake stared at the files. This was bigger than trade disputes. This was a system, a way to keep new species weak and old empires strong, and humanity was next in line. "Does Earth know?" Jake asked. "I sent everything to Director Lisa Harper an hour ago. She is reviewing it now." Jake trusted Lisa. She ran Earth's intelligence network and had contacts everywhere. If anyone could verify this information, she could. The ship shook slightly as it docked at Zenith Prime. Jake and Ben gathered their materials and walked through the airlock into the massive station. Aliens of every shape and size moved through the corridors. Some walked, some floated, some slithered. Jake had grown used to the diversity, but it still amazed him sometimes. Two guards met them at the entrance. They were Kethran, tall reptilian beings with scales that shifted colors. Jake did not like the coincidence. "Ambassador Morrison," one guard said in perfect English, "you will come with us." They walked through the station's main hall toward the council chambers. Other diplomats watched them pass. Some looked curious. Some looked sympathetic. None looked surprised. Everyone knew something big was happening. The council president, a being named Kelmos, met them outside the chamber. Kelmos was Sivaran, a species known for being neutral and fair. That gave Jake a small amount of hope. "Ambassador Morrison," Kelmos said. His voice came through a translator device. "I am sorry for the circumstances. The accusations are serious. You will have a chance to defend your species, but I must warn you. The evidence against humanity is substantial." "We will see," Jake said calmly. Kelmos looked at him for a long moment. "I hope you have prepared well. This council can be harsh when they believe rules have been broken." Jake and Ben were shown to a waiting room. They had 2 hours before the session began. Jake used the time to contact Lisa Harper back on Earth. Her face appeared on the screen and she looked grim. "Jake, it is worse than we thought. I have been digging into Kethran Communications. They have been planning this for over a year. This is not just about stopping our expansion. They want to control us. Can you prove it?" "I am working on it. But Jake, you need to know something else. Our fleets are moving into position. If this goes badly, if the Council tries to enforce unfair sanctions, we will not accept it." Jake understood what she meant. Earth was ready to fight if necessary. "Let us hope it does not come to that." "Hope is good," Lisa said, "but preparation is better. Good luck, Jake. All of Earth is counting on you." The screen went dark. Jake sat in silence for a moment. Then he stood and straightened his suit. It was time to face the Galactic Council. The council chamber was enormous. Jake stood at the center of a circular floor, surrounded by rising tiers of seats filled with alien representatives. 47 different species watched him from above. Some had eyes, some had sensors, some had organs Jake could not even identify. But all of them were focused on him. The chamber lights dimmed except for the spot where Jake stood. He felt like an insect under a microscope. Ben sat in a smaller seat behind him, ready to provide information if needed. Kelmos spoke first from his position at the highest tier. "This council is now in session. We are here to address formal complaints against the species known as humanity and their governing body, Earth. Ambassador Morrison, you stand accused of multiple violations of galactic law. How do you plead?" "Not guilty," Jake said clearly. His voice echoed in the massive space. "Very well. The prosecution may present their case." A Kethran stepped forward from the right side of the chamber. Galactic was tall even for his species, nearly 8 feet. His scales were deep red, a sign of high rank among his people. He moved with confidence, like someone who had already won. "Honored Council," Galactic began, "I will prove that humanity has become a danger to galactic peace. They expand too quickly. They militarize too aggressively. They ignore treaties and boundaries. They are, in short, a threat to us all. A large screen appeared in the center of the chamber. It showed footage of human ships, sleek and powerful, moving through space in formation. Here we see the human fleet conducting war games near the outer rim, 50 vessels, fully armed, practicing attack formations. This is not defensive behavior. This is preparation for conquest. The footage looked bad, Jake had to admit. The ships moved in perfect coordination, firing weapons at practice targets. It looked aggressive and threatening, but Galactic left out important details. Those exercises were announced months in advance. They took place in unclaimed space. Every species conducted similar training. And here, Galactic continued, showing another image, we see human colony ships entering the Vega sector, clearly marked as protected territory. The image showed human vessels approaching a planet. The area was indeed marked red on the star chart, indicating restricted space. But Jake knew something was wrong with that chart. He had seen the original maps. The Vega sector was never restricted until after humans had already claimed it. Galactic spent an hour presenting evidence. Every piece looked damning. He showed trade agreements that humans supposedly broke. He showed territorial violations. He showed communication intercepts that made human diplomats sound arrogant and hostile. By the time Galactic finished, many council members looked convinced. Jake could see it in their postures, in the way they whispered to each other. The prosecution had built a strong case, even if it was based on lies. Ambassador Morrison, Kelmos said, you may respond to these accusations. Jake stood. Honored Council, I request a brief recess to consult with my government. 2 hours should be sufficient. Galactic objected immediately. This is an attempt to delay justice. The evidence is clear. There is nothing to discuss. But Kelmos raised a hand. The ambassador has a right to consult his superiors. We will reconvene in 2 hours. Jake and Ben rushed back to their waiting room. Jake immediately opened a secure channel to Earth. Lisa Harper's face appeared, and this time she was smiling. Tell me you found something, Jake said. We found everything, Lisa replied. For the past 6 months, we have been monitoring Kethrin communications. We knew they were planning something, so we prepared. Jake, we have proof of everything. The falsified evidence, the bribed council members, the entire conspiracy. How much proof? Enough to bury them. Communications between Kethrin officials discussing how to frame humanity. Financial records showing payments to 3 council members. Historical data showing they have done this to 23 other species over the last 3 centuries. Jake felt hope for the first time since receiving the summons. Send me everything. And, Lisa, I need something else. Name it. I need a show of force, not an attack, just a reminder that Earth is not helpless, Lisa nodded. Already done. Admiral Kate Sullivan is en route with 40 ships. They will arrive in the system within the hour. Jake, you have full authorization to use whatever information you need. Earth trusts you. The connection ended. Ben handed Jake a data core containing all the evidence Lisa had sent. It was heavy in his palm, filled with information that would change everything. Are you really going to do this? Ben asked. If you expose them, the Kethrins will never forgive us. This could start a war. If we do nothing, Jake said, we lose our freedom. We become their puppets. I would rather fight than submit. They returned to the council chamber. The other delegates were already in their seats. Galactic looked confident, almost bored. He clearly believed the verdict was decided. Ambassador Morrison, Kelmos said, are you prepared to present your defense? I am. Jake held up the data core. But first I want to correct the record. Every piece of evidence presented by the prosecution was manipulated or falsified. I can prove it. The chamber erupted in noise. Aliens spoke in dozens of languages, creating a cacophony of sound. Jothic stood, his scales flushing darker. "This is an outrage. You accuse me of dishonesty?" "I accuse you of conspiracy," Jake said calmly. "And I have proof." He loaded the data core into the council's main computer. The central screen lit up with information. Jake started with the simplest evidence. He showed the original star charts of the Vega sector, dated before human arrival. They clearly showed no restrictions. Then he showed the altered charts from the prosecution's evidence dated after human colonies were established. "Someone changed these maps," Jake explained, "to make it look like we broke rules that did not exist when we arrived." He moved to the footage of military exercises. He played the full, unedited version. It showed human ships conducting standard defensive drills, the kind every military performed. The prosecution had cut out all context and made it look aggressive. One by one, Jake dismantled every accusation. He showed communications proving human diplomats had been polite and professional. He showed trade agreements that humans had honored completely. He proved that every supposed violation was either fabricated or taken out of context. The council members began to look uncertain. Some were clearly angry at being misled. Others looked worried about the implications. But Jake was not finished. He had saved the best evidence for last. He pulled up a new file and looked directly at Jothic. "Now let me show you who is really breaking the rules." Jake watched the screen as new information appeared. The council chamber had gone completely silent. Every being present leaned forward, waiting to see what the human ambassador would reveal. 3 months ago," Jake began, "Earth's intelligence network detected unusual communication patterns coming from Kethrin space. At first, we thought it was normal diplomatic traffic, but when we looked closer, we found something disturbing." The screen showed intercepted messages, translated into the common Galactic language. The first message was between two Kethrin officials. "The human problem needs a solution. They grow too strong. Recommend immediate action through council channels. Legal suppression is always more effective than military force." Murmurs spread through the chamber. Jothic remained standing, but his scales had started to pale. That was a sign of stress in his species. "This message," Jake continued, "was sent 14 months ago, long before any of the supposed violations occurred. In fact, if you look at the dates, you will see that the Kethrins began planning this prosecution before we even established the colonies they claim we placed illegally." He pulled up more messages. Each one showed Kethrin officials discussing how to build a case against humanity. They talked about which accusations would work best. They discussed how to edit footage and alter records. They even joked about how easy it would be to fool the council. One message made several council members stand in anger. It showed a Kethrin official saying, "These primitive apes will never see it coming. By the time they realize what happened, they will be begging us to guide them." Jake let that message hang on the screen for a long moment. Then he moved to the next evidence. But conspiracy to frame another species is not the worst of it. What we discovered goes much deeper. The screen changed to show financial records. Numbers, transactions, account details. It looked boring, but Jake knew it was explosive. "These are payment records from Kethrin government accounts. Notice these 3 transactions, each for 10 million galactic credits. Now look at who received them." 3 names appeared on the screen. They belonged to council members from different species. All 3 were sitting in the chamber right now, and all 3 suddenly looked terrified. "These 3 council members received bribes," Jake stated flatly. "Payment in exchange for voting in favor of Kethrin interests, specifically payment to support sanctions against humanity." The chamber exploded with noise. Delegates shouted accusations. The 3 bribed council members tried to speak, to defend themselves, but no one was listening. Kelmos called for order repeatedly, his voice barely audible over the chaos. Jake waited. He had more to show, and he needed the council to see it all. When the noise finally died down, Jake continued. This is not the first time the Kethrans have done this. In fact, it is their standard practice. Ben, pull up the historical analysis. Ben worked quickly at his console. New information appeared on the screen, a timeline stretching back 300 years. 23 species, Jake said, pointing at the display. 23 younger civilizations that joined the galactic community with hope and ambition. Every single one was accused of violations within their first 20 years. Every single one faced harsh sanctions, and every single one ended up dependent on the Kethran Empire for survival. He zoomed in on specific examples. The Tolvar people, now little more than laborers in Kethran factories. The Nexian culture, once proud and independent, now governed by Kethran overseers. The Prill species, whose homeworld was strip-mined after they lost their autonomy. This is not justice, Jake said, his voice hard. This is a system designed to eliminate competition. The Kethrans have been using the Council as a weapon for centuries. They destroy emerging species before they can become threats to Kethran dominance. Jathic finally found his voice. These are lies, fabrications. You cannot prove any of this. Jake turned to face him directly. Every piece of evidence has been verified by independent sources. The communication intercepts were confirmed by the Alvari Republic's intelligence service. The financial records came from the Galactic Trade Authority's own database. The historical pattern was documented by scholars from 6 different worlds. This is not some human conspiracy. This is the truth. A new voice spoke from the upper tiers. It belonged to the Velox representative, a being that looked like flowing water contained in a transparent suit. And what of the Velox consortium? You mentioned we also filed complaints against humanity. Jake nodded. The consortium has been complicit, not as aggressive as the Kethrans, but you have benefited from their system. In exchange for supporting their accusations, you receive favorable trade terms and territorial concessions. He pulled up more evidence showing agreements between the Kethrans and the consortium, trade deals that gave the consortium exclusive rights to certain resources, signed immediately after they supported sanctions against other species. How deep does this corruption go? Asked a delegate from the Morrigan Collective, a species known for their rigid sense of honor. Jake took a breath. This was the moment he had been building toward. Deep enough that this council has become a tool of oppression rather than a force for justice. Deep enough that innocent species have suffered. Deep enough that it ends today, one way or another. Before anyone could respond, an alarm sounded. A security officer rushed into the chamber and spoke urgently to Kelmos. The council president's face, which was difficult for humans to read, showed what Jake thought was surprise. It appears, Kelmos announced, that 40 human warships have just entered this system. They are taking positions around this station. The chamber erupted again. Some delegates accused humanity of aggression. Others looked frightened. Jathic pointed at Jake triumphantly. You see? They threaten us with violence. This proves they are dangerous. Jake remained calm. He had been expecting this. We are not threatening anyone. Those ships are here to ensure that this proceeding is conducted fairly. Given that 3 of your diplomats have already been assassinated, I think our caution is justified. He pulled up one final piece of evidence. Reports of 3 human diplomats who had died in the past 2 years. The official causes were listed as accidents. A shuttle malfunction, a poisoning from contaminated food, a sudden illness. But Earth's investigation had found evidence of sabotage in all 3 cases. Every one of these diplomats, Jake said, was working on trade agreements that would have competed with Kethran interests. Everyone died right before major negotiations, and in each case, Kethran operatives were present at the locations where they died. He showed security footage, tracking data, and forensic evidence. It was not absolute proof, but it was compelling, enough to create reasonable doubt about the accidents. A hologram suddenly appeared next to Jake. It showed Admiral Kate Sullivan standing on the bridge of a warship. She wore her full military uniform, and behind her, the bridge crew was clearly at battle stations. "Council members," Kate said formally, "I am here to assure you that Earth's fleet has no hostile intentions. We are simply providing security for our ambassador. However, I want to make something clear. We will not allow our representative to be harmed or silenced. We will not allow this council to impose unjust sanctions, and we will not allow the Kethran Empire to destroy humanity the way they have destroyed so many others." Jathik's scales were now almost white. "This is an act of war." "No," Jake said quietly. "This is an act of self-defense. You tried to rig the system against us. You tried to make us victims. But humanity learned a long time ago that freedom is worth fighting for. We came to the stars hoping for peace and cooperation. We followed your rules. We respected your laws, and you repaid us with lies and manipulation." He looked around the chamber, meeting as many eyes as he could. "So now you have a choice. You can continue being a corrupt institution that serves the powerful. Or you can remember what this council was supposed to be. A place of justice. A place where all species, young and old, weak and strong, can have their voices heard." Jake stepped forward, his voice rising. "But understand this. Humanity will not be your victim. We will not bow to threats. We will not accept slavery disguised as protection. If this council cannot offer us justice, we will find it elsewhere." The council chamber remained in chaos for several minutes. Delegates argued with each other. Some demanded Jake be arrested for threatening the council. Others called for an immediate investigation of the Kethrans. The three bribed council members tried to leave, but were stopped by security. Kelmos finally restored order by shutting down all communication systems except his own. The sudden silence was jarring. "We will take a recess," Kelmos announced. 30 minutes. Council members will remain here. Ambassador Morrison, you will wait in the anteroom." Jake and Ben were escorted to a small chamber adjacent to the main hall. Through the transparent walls, they could see other species gathering in small groups, talking urgently. The political landscape had just shifted dramatically, and everyone was trying to figure out what it meant for them. "That went better than I expected," Ben said, trying to sound optimistic. Jake was not so sure. "We showed them the truth, but truth does not always win. Power matters too, and the Kethrans still have a lot of it." Admiral Kate Sullivan's face appeared on a small communication screen. She looked tense. "Jake, we have a situation developing. Kethran warships are moving toward this system. Not many, maybe a dozen, but they are definitely coming. How long until they arrive? 3 hours, maybe 4. What do you want me to do?" Jake thought carefully. "Hold position. Do not engage unless they attack first, but make sure they know we are ready." Kate nodded, and the connection ended. Jake sat down, suddenly feeling exhausted. The next few hours would determine humanity's future in the galaxy. Either they would emerge as equals, respected and free, or they would have to fight for their independence. The 30-minute recess stretched to an hour. Finally, they were called back to the chamber. The atmosphere had changed. The chaos was gone, replaced by a cold tension. Delegates sat stiffly in their seats, and many would not meet Jake's eyes. Kelmos spoke first. "Ambassador Morrison, your evidence has been reviewed. The allegations you have made are serious. However, they are also complicated. Some council members believe more investigation is needed before we can draw conclusions." Jake felt his stomach sink. They were going to stall. They were going to bury the evidence in committees and reviews until everyone forgot about it. With respect, Jake said, the evidence is clear. The Kethrans have been manipulating this council for centuries. The proof is overwhelming. A delegate from the Thrain Assembly stood. Even if your evidence is accurate, you have also admitted to spying on other species. You intercepted private communications. You hacked financial databases. Are these not also violations of galactic law? It was a good point, and Jake knew it was coming. We gathered intelligence to defend ourselves. When we detected a conspiracy against humanity, we investigated. Any species would do the same. That is a convenient excuse, another delegate said. This one was from a species allied with the Kethrans. You claim self-defense? But you brought warships to a diplomatic proceeding. You threaten us with military force if we do not rule in your favor. This is not justice. This is bullying. Several delegates murmured agreement. Jake could see the momentum shifting. The Kethrans and their allies were turning this back on humanity, making them look like the aggressors. Galactic stood, his scales now back to their normal red color. He had recovered his composure. Honored Council, I do not deny that some communications may have been misunderstood. Perhaps some financial transactions appear questionable without proper context. But the fundamental issue remains. Humanity is dangerous. They expand too quickly. They militarize too heavily. And now they bring warships to threaten us. This proves they cannot be trusted. He gestured toward Jake. This human speaks of justice, but he threatens war. He claims to want peace, but he shows us weapons. The Kethran Empire has maintained stability in this galaxy for thousands of years. We have helped dozens of species develop safely. If our methods seem harsh sometimes, it is only because we understand the dangers that young civilizations pose to themselves and others. It was a masterful response. Galactic admitted nothing while making humanity look like the problem. He positioned the Kethrans as wise elders trying to maintain order against reckless children. Jake knew he had to counter this immediately. Council members, do not be fooled by pleasant words. The Kethrans speak of stability, but they mean stagnation. They speak of help, but they mean control. Look at the species they have helped. Are any of them free? Are any of them prosperous? Or are they all servants of the Kethran Empire? He pulled up images of the 23 species that had been sanctioned. Images of once proud civilizations now reduced to labor forces and resource suppliers for the Kethrans. This is what Kethran help looks like, Jake said. This is the future they want for humanity, and we refuse it. A new voice spoke from the upper tiers. It was a delegate from the Drell Commonwealth, a smaller species that had remained neutral throughout the proceedings. Ambassador Morrison, let us assume everything you say is true. Let us assume the Kethrans have been corrupt and manipulative. What do you want us to do? The Kethran Empire is powerful. They have alliances with half the council. If we rule against them, there could be war. Are you asking us to risk our worlds, our people, for humanity? It was a fair question, and Jake respected the honesty. This delegate was not defending the Kethrans. They were simply afraid. I am asking you to do what is right, Jake said simply. I know it is dangerous. I know it is easier to look away. But if you do nothing now, who will be next? Which species will the Kethrans target after humanity? Maybe yours, maybe your neighbors. At some point, someone has to stand up. The Drell delegate sat down without responding. The chamber fell silent. Everyone was thinking about Jake's words. Kelmos looked troubled. Ambassador Morrison, I believe you are sincere. I believe you want justice. But you must understand the position we are in. The Council cannot function if we accuse powerful members without absolute certainty. The investigation you demand could take months or years. We do not have months or years, Jake said. The Kethrans want to impose sanctions now. They want to cripple Earth's expansion and take control of our development. If you delay the investigation, they achieve their goals anyway. Then what do you propose? Kelmos asked. Jake took a deep breath. This was the moment he had been preparing for since leaving Earth. The moment where he had to draw a line that could never be uncrossed. I propose a simple solution. Drop all charges against humanity immediately. Launch a full independent investigation of the Kethran Empire with investigators chosen from neutral species. Until that investigation is complete, all council sanctions and punishments are suspended. The Kethran Empire's voting privileges are revoked pending the investigation results. The chamber erupted again. Galactic roared in outrage. Several of his allied delegates stood and shouted, but others looked thoughtful, considering Jake's proposal. And if we refuse? Galactic demanded. If we insist on judging humanity as planned? Jake looked at him steadily. Then humanity will withdraw from this council. We will consider any sanctions void and unenforceable. We will establish our own alliance with species that want fair dealings, and any attempt to enforce unjust sanctions through military force will be considered an act of war. You cannot do that, Galactic said. You cannot simply leave the council. Watch us, Jake replied. We came to the stars hoping to join a community of civilized species. But if this council is just a tool for the strong to dominate the weak, then it is not civilized. And we want no part of it. He paused, letting his words sink in. Then he delivered the final blow. 3 smaller species have already contacted us privately. They want to join a human alliance if we leave the council. They are tired of being exploited. They want fair trade, mutual defense, and real cooperation. How many more will follow? How long before this council becomes irrelevant because all the young species have left? Galactic stared at Jake for a long moment. The Kethran diplomat's scales flickered between red and white, showing his inner turmoil. Finally, he stepped forward, and his voice was cold with rage. You dare threaten the Kethran Empire? You dare think your pathetic species can stand against us? We have ruled the stars for thousands of years. We have crushed rebellions from 100 worlds. What makes you think humanity is special? Jake had been waiting for this moment. Everything had been building to this confrontation. He stood straight, meeting Galactic's alien gaze without flinching. You want to know what makes humanity special? I will tell you. He gestured to Ben, who pulled up new information on the main screen. It showed detailed analysis of the Kethran military, their fleet positions, their strategic vulnerabilities. We have studied you, Galactic. We have studied your empire very carefully. Your fleet is large, yes. 3,000 ships spread across your territory. Very impressive. But those ships use technology that has not changed in 200 years. You have not innovated because you have not needed to. No one has challenged you in so long that you forgot how to adapt. The screen shifted to show tactical simulations, human ships engaging Kethran vessels in various scenarios. In every simulation, the humans won decisively. Your ships are slow. Your weapons have limited range. Your tactics are predictable because they have worked for centuries against inferior opponents. But humanity is not inferior. Galactic laughed, a harsh sound. You have been in space for 12 years. 12. We have been spacefaring for 12,000. You think you can match us? We do not need to match you, Jake said. We just need to beat you, and we will. He pulled up more data. Your 3,000 ships are spread across 36 star systems. You maintain occupation forces on 18 client worlds. Your supply lines are stretched thin. Meanwhile, Earth's fleet is concentrated, mobile, and ready. We train for real combat every day, not ceremonial patrols. The tactical displays showed Kethran weaknesses, poorly defended supply depots, predictable patrol routes, systems with only token military presence. Earth's intelligence had been thorough. But here is what should really worry you, Jake continued. Your client species hate you. The Tolvar, the Nexians, the Prill, all those civilizations you conquered and enslaved. Right now, they stay quiet because they have no choice. But if someone gave them hope, if someone showed them that the Kethran Empire could be defeated, how long do you think they would remain loyal? Jathik's scales had gone pale again. Several other council members leaned forward, clearly disturbed by what they were hearing. We have been in contact with resistance groups on 6 of your client worlds, Jake said. This was a bluff, but a calculated one. They are ready to rebel. They are just waiting for a signal. Imagine fighting humanity while simultaneously dealing with uprisings across your empire. How long could you last? You are insane, Jathik said, but his voice lacked conviction now. Starting a war would doom both our species. Jake shook his head. We do not want war. We never wanted war. We came here seeking justice. But you forced our hand. You tried to make us victims, and we refuse. So here is what happens next. He turned to address the entire council. This council will vote. You will either agree to our terms, drop the charges, investigate the Kethrans fairly, or you will not. If you vote against us, humanity leaves. We establish our own alliance. We offer fair trade and mutual defense to any species that wants it, and the Kethran Empire will have to watch its dominance crumble as more and more civilizations realize they have a choice. And if we vote for you? Asked the Drell delegate. What guarantee do we have that you will not become the next Kethrans? What stops humanity from building its own empire of subjugated species? It was a good question, and Jake had prepared for it. Nothing stops us except our own values. You will have to trust that humanity means what it says. But I can offer you this. Any species that joins a human alliance will do so as equals. No client states. No subject worlds. Real partnerships where everyone benefits. Jathik suddenly moved. His hand went to his side, reaching for a weapon. But before he could draw it, 3 of his own delegation grabbed his arms and held him back. They spoke urgently in their own language, clearly trying to calm him down. Jake watched this carefully. The fact that Jathik's own people stopped him was significant. They understood that violence here would destroy any remaining credibility the Kethrans had. Kelmos stood, his voice carrying authority. There will be no violence in this chamber. Jathik, control yourself or you will be removed. Jathik shook off his companions, but did not reach for his weapon again. Instead, he pointed at Jake with a trembling hand. If you think you can threaten the Kethran Empire without consequences, you are wrong. War is coming, human. We will crush you. We will burn your worlds. We will make an example of Earth that will be remembered for 10,000 years. Jake looked at him calmly. Then he smiled, and it was not a friendly expression. You know what your problem is, Jathik? You have been powerful for so long that you forgot what it is like to face a real threat. You think fear will make us back down. But humanity has been through worse than you can imagine. He stepped closer, and his voice dropped to a level that somehow carried through the entire chamber. We have survived ice ages that covered our world in glaciers. We survived plagues that killed half our population. We fought wars so terrible that we nearly destroyed ourselves with our own weapons. We have looked at extinction more times than I can count, and every single time we refused to die. Jake's expression hardened. So you want to threaten Earth? You want to threaten my people? Then understand this. We did not come to the stars looking for a fight. We came hoping for peace and friendship. We followed your rules. We respected your traditions. And you repaid us with lies, manipulation, and conspiracy. The chamber was absolutely silent now. Every being present was focused on Jake and Jathic, watching the confrontation unfold. "You tried to rig the system against us," Jake continued. "You tried to make us another one of your client species, another broken civilization serving Kethran interests. But we saw through it. We found your conspiracy. We exposed your crimes. And now you stand revealed for what you truly are. Bullies who prey on the weak and call it leadership." Jathic opened his mouth to respond, but Jake was not finished. "So here is what happens now. The council will vote. If they vote for justice, you lose. If they vote against us, humanity leaves and takes half the younger species with us. Either way, your empire of fear ends today. Either way, the galaxy learns that standing up to you is possible." Jake paused, and then delivered the line that would echo through galactic history. "You wanted to know what makes humanity special? This is it. We do not bow. We do not surrender. We do not accept slavery disguised as protection. And if you force us to fight, we will show you what happens when you corner a species that refuses to die." He stepped forward one more time, his eyes locked on Jathic. "Then the reckoning starts here." The chamber exploded with noise. Delegates shouted. Alarms sounded. Security forces rushed in, but Jake stood his ground, calm and steady, while chaos swirled around him. Admiral Kate Sullivan's hologram reappeared. "Jake, long-range sensors just detected something. 200 more human ships just entered the system. The entire expeditionary fleet is here." The news rippled through the chamber. 200 ships. Earth had not sent a token force for show. They had sent everything. It was a message impossible to misunderstand. Humanity was serious. Jathic looked around wildly. His allies were backing away. His own delegation looked uncertain. He had pushed for this confrontation, expecting humanity to fold. Instead, they had called his bluff and raised the stakes beyond anything he expected. Kelmos called for order repeatedly. Finally, the noise died down enough for him to speak. "We will vote now. All those in favor of Ambassador Morrison's proposal to drop charges against humanity and launch an independent investigation of the Kethran Empire, signal now." Lights appeared above various delegates' seats. Green for yes, red for no. The voting took less than a minute, but to Jake it felt like an eternity. When it finished, Kelmos announced the results. "The vote is 39 in favor, 8 against. The motion passes." Jake felt relief wash over him. It was done. They had won. But Jathic was not finished. "This is not over, human. The Kethran Empire does not accept this decision. We will withdraw from the council, and we will remember this day." "So will we," Jake said quietly. "So will every species you tried to dominate. So will every civilization you almost destroyed. They will remember that someone finally stood up to you, and they will remember that it worked." Over the following hour, the chamber gradually emptied. Several ambassadors approached Jake privately. Some congratulated him. Others warned him that he had made dangerous enemies. A few, representing smaller species, asked about the possibility of joining a human alliance. Ben looked exhausted, but happy. "We did it. We actually did it." "We did," Jake agreed. "But, Ben, this is just the beginning. The Kethrans will not forgive this. We will need to be ready." Later, back on the Aurora heading to Earth, Jake sat alone looking at the stars. He thought about everything that had happened. The risks they took. The gambles that paid off. The line in the sand that could never be uncrossed. His communication console chimed. It was Lisa Harper. "Jake, you did good work today. All of Earth is proud of you. But you need to know something. Intelligence reports that Kethran military forces are mobilizing. They might actually try to attack." "Let them try," Jake said. "We are ready." "I know. But Jake, There is something else. Since your speech at the council, 17 species have contacted us. 17. They want trade agreements, defense pacts, cultural exchanges. They have been waiting for someone to stand up to the old empires. You gave them hope. Jake smiled. That was worth all the risk, worth all the danger. Then we better not disappoint them, he said. The Aurora continued its journey home, carrying the ambassador who had changed the galaxy. Behind them, 40 ships of Earth's fleet followed as an honor guard. Ahead of them, 200 more ships were already preparing for whatever came next. Humanity had entered the galactic stage as supplicants, hoping for acceptance. Today, they had shown the galaxy something different. They had shown strength, courage, and refusal to accept injustice. And the galaxy would never look at humans the same way again.